Hello, this is the Personnel File, where we look into the Starfleet career and personality of some of Star Trek's most notable individuals, and this time let's examine the captain with the most light years logged in Federation history, Captain Kathryn Janeway. The usual disclaimer, many details are built up in the show, but a great deal is still left out, so I will be using memory beta to fill in the blanks, books and the like, except where it conflicts with the show. Let's get started. Born May 20th, 2335, Bloomington, Indiana, to Edward and Gretchen Janeway. Her father was an admiral in Starfleet. 2339, 4 years later, her sister Phoebe was born. Throughout her childhood, she went on many hiking trips with her father, who also taught her to think critically and placed a great emphasis on double-checking and being shrewd when tackling problems. She entered Starfleet Academy at the age of 18 in 2353 to follow her father's footsteps. However, her curious mind was inspired by tales of her ancestors such as Shannon O'Donnell, who were said to be famed explorers. Upon researching, however, she found O'Donnell's part in numerous space-related projects was rather limited, but the inspiration still remained. Her analytical approach to things made her gravitate towards mathematics and the sciences. She also enjoyed tennis and skiing, though would later drop these extra activities. 2356, she met Tuvok for the first time as he was instructing at Starfleet Academy. During her first training command, she failed to adhere to proper tactical protocol and was correctly berated before the Admiralty members who were observing. After her pride healed, she realised Tuvok had been correct. She studied numerous topics at Starfleet Academy, primarily science courses, in which she excelled. However, she didn't do well in other topics such as languages, failing Klingonese. It was during her time at the Academy she discovered coffee and used it as fuel for many late-nighters. In her third year, she turned to Admiral Owen Paris for advice in writing her thesis, who made note of the promising young science officer. She also met her future fiancé, Lieutenant Justin Tighe. She graduated from the Academy in 2357 with a doctoral degree in quantum cosmology. From 2357 to 2358, her first assignment was the USS Albertani, the flagship for Admiral Owen Paris. She was granted the rank of ensign and assigned as a junior science officer. The ship was assigned the Arias expedition, a year-long survey of the sector, but also an intelligence-gathering mission along the Cardassian border. During the many skirmishes of the border wars, she was abducted by Cardassians on Utreya II and escaped with the help of Lieutenant Tighe. It was commented on by Admiral Paris that she should perhaps consider a career in command instead, and she earned a commendation. Tragedy struck in 2358 when her father, Admiral Janeway, drowned beneath the ice caps of Tau Ceti Prime whilst taking part in the test flight for the USS Terra Nova. Kathryn and her fiancé at the time were also on board, but only Kathryn survived. She took a year of leave to recover from the event, and upon returning to active duty in 2359, she switched to the Command Division. Her next posting was as the second officer aboard the USS Mary Kingsley until 2361, under the command of Captain Ona Karapelides. In 2363, she was made the commanding officer of the USS Billings at the rank of Commander. During her tenure as captain of the ship, she sent an away team to survey a volcanic moon. The survey failed with casualties caused by the eruptions, and the next day she completed the survey herself, refusing to endanger anyone else. In 2365, she was reassigned to the USS Bonestell for a 6-month exploratory mission into the Beta Quadrant. On the conclusion of the mission, she was called in for a review, and it was decided that Ensign Tuvok would be assigned as her tactical officer to prevent further violations of tactical protocol. It's unclear if she remained on the USS Bonestell or returned to commanding the USS Billings, but she served as a commanding officer alongside Lieutenant Tuvok until 2370. In 2370, she received word that the new Intrepid-class USS Voyager was under construction and that she had been chosen to command, with a promotion to the rank of captain. She immediately began to study up on the Intrepid vessel and accepted the offer. In 2371, the USS Voyager departed from Deep Space Nine to locate her missing tactical officer Tuvok, who was operating as an undercover agent aboard a Marquis ship. The vessel was seemingly lost with all hands when it and the Marquis vessel were taken by the caretaker array to the far end of the Delta Quadrant. In 2371, she chose to destroy the array to prevent the Kazon from obtaining it, a decision she still has trouble accepting, unsure if it was the correct one. The lack of a chief science officer led Janeway to occasionally fulfill this role on top of her captaincy, and the merger of the Voyager crew with the Marquis. During the record-breaking Odyssey home, she became notable for having the largest number of first contacts of any Federation captain, being the only United Federation of Planets representative in the Quadrant, and the return trip crossing many systems. Several other great changes occurred during this period, but due to the isolated nature of Janeway and the crew of the Voyager, many of these events would only have repercussions for Starfleet when she returned home, or Starfleet begins to explore the Delta Quadrant itself. Intentional or not, the many Delta Quadrant powers were often less developed than the Federation vessel, and technological contamination did occur, but Janeway chose to try to minimise the exchange of technology despite the advantage in bartering it may have offered. In 2373, Captain Janeway was critically injured during a crash landing and was rendered comatose for a time. Also, in late 2373, Janeway created a historic alliance with the Borg Collective against an extra-dimensional threat known as Species 8472. The truce was short-lived, but ended with the reclamation of Annika Hansen, an assimilated human, and several Borg upgrades to the USS Voyager. In 2374, the USS Voyager beams the EMH program via an ancient subspace comm network back to the USS Prometheus, and Starfleet learns of Voyager's survival. Project Pathfinder is initiated to attain communications with the Delta Quadrant soon after. In 2374, the Omega Directive was enacted when 2375 saw Janeway's closest analysis yet of quantum slipstream technology, a faster-than-warp capability on the Dauntless. Later on, a short-lived but successful slipstream flight was performed by the USS Voyager. The technology was still not quite safe enough to use, but would prove of considerable benefit to Starfleet with further study. In late 2375, the USS Voyager made contact with the USS Equinox, another stranded Starfleet ship. In 2378, Kathryn Janeway guided Voyager home to the Sol system with the aid of her time-displaced future self and a Borg network of subspace corridors. In the year 2378, she was promoted to Vice Admiral and was pegged as Starfleet's Borg expert. She spearheaded Project Full Circle, where technology was reverse-engineered from the future tech of the USS Voyager. It's speculated that she continued down the path of preparing the Federation for a confrontation with the Borg, suspecting that the destruction of the Hive Queen would only prove a temporary setback. This is where the record ends officially. All throughout her life, she has shown a preference as an academic. Mathematics, physics and the like are her go-to fields, as her analytical and critical mind often seeks to find the most practical solutions to a problem. She doesn't shun creativity, but relies heavily on past examples and her senior staff to supplement her mindset, holding regular staff meetings to discuss an issue whenever time permits. She is frequently seen reading, but more often than not, she will be scanning through a report, a study, or a thesis on different topics, rather than works of fiction. In terms of flaws, she doesn't take loss well. She gave up playing tennis after she lost a match and never played again for around 19 years, showing a stubborn side that can lead to an immovable attitude on certain principles. With the loss of her father and first fiancé in 2358, she also fell into an understandable depression, choosing to spend most of her time locked away asleep. When she returns to Starfleet, the change from sciences to command can be seen as an attempt to correct her perceived weaknesses, from a command position, perhaps she could have more control of a situation, prevent accidents like the one that killed her family. This drive to protect leads itself to no small amount of guilt and doubt to creep into her mind, and occasionally she'll act out because of it, risking her own life to set right a perceived wrong, even at the expense of her ingrained adherence to the rules. This strain is amplified when she is stranded in the Delta Quadrant, and she's frequently wrought with guilt over obeying the Prime Directive, breaking the Prime Directive, and acting out of morality. If I had to speculate, I'd say that her instinct is to act immediately on a moral ground, to do the right thing when confronted with wrongdoing. But her entire life is full of examples where her disregard of doing things the proper way has got her caught out. Twice in her record she was chastised in front of the Admiralty for not adhering to protocol, and this is bound to curtail many impulses that she would otherwise act on. Several times throughout the show we do see her disregard for Starfleet regulations or bend them, at least in order to intervene, although reminders of straying too far from the Federation way are routinely introduced, such as the crew of the USS Equinox, who have abandoned all Federation morals in favour of a quicker trip home, or her attempted alliance with the Trabe. In terms of relationships, she is used to maintaining a professional distance from her crew and withdraws from romance within Starfleet, likely a holdover from her first fiance's death, and the dedication to her new fiancé, Mark Johnson. She seems to bond well with the people who share her love of curiosity and drive to innovate, such as B'Elanna Torres, and gravitating towards the Leonardo da Vinci Holo program. She likewise disapproves of rule breakers and the Marquis, but has to put aside her favouritism due to the unique situation of the Voyager. All in all, being stranded in the Delta Quadrant has led Kathryn Janeway to re-evaluate several personality traits that otherwise would have remained. If it weren't for the Voyager mission home, she may not have become as protective of her crew, seeing them as an extended family, and would likely be even more of a stickler for the rules than she already is. It was her guilt in the first place that led her to break the Temporal Prime Directive and assist her past self in returning home, and she ultimately decides to screw the rules. With no one to answer to in the Delta Quadrant, she has to be her own compass. Having someone to answer to, such as Starfleet, would take much of the pressure off her, being told in black and white terms to do this, or don't do that would likely have made her life a whole lot easier, but then she wouldn't have developed as a person. Thanks for watching this personnel file. I wonder what the future holds for Janeway, as different sources have her both alive and dead as of the 25th century. What do you think of Janeway? Some defining episodes for her are definitely the episodes Sacred Ground for her approach to mysteries. I'd also say Workforce 1 and 2 to see her without a life of Starfleet regulations shaping her personality, and there's so many. Macrocosm, to see her roll up her sleeves and go all Ripley and save her ship is pretty good too, and it shows the kind of self-sacrificial attitude she has towards her crew. I'd also suggest Equinox, but that two-parter has multiple plot threads and deals with the crew as a whole, really. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you around. I've been Rick, and goodbye.